Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Robert Canter, and this is The Passion. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is best described as a 3-hour-long symphony of pain. There is some debate as to whether or not the nails were driven into Jesus' palms or his wrists. If the nails had been driven through his palms, there's no way his weight would be supported against the cross. But we mustn't forget that the crosspiece was already tied to his wrists, enabling the nails to be driven into the hands without him falling off the cross. Stigmatics like St. Francis of Assisi, St. Padre Pio, and Catherine of Siena have all displayed wounds in the same spot. The nerves in these areas would have caused burning pain so severe that even a gentle breeze was agonizing. The Romans bent the legs of the crucifixion victims at the knee and placed the feet flush against the cross. One nail was driven through the top of each foot, severing the plantar nerves. Not only does this cause pain similar to the nails in the hands, but it would cause cramping and numbness in the legs. Sometimes victims would be left alive for days in a state of mortal agony. But in Jesus' already deteriorated condition, it only takes 3 hours. During the crucifixion, Jesus cries out, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This is purely a rhetorical question, and Jesus is quoting Psalm 22, which is a messianic psalm about despair and death, but also hope for deliverance. During the crucifixion, Jesus is offered wine twice. The first time, it was drugged wine. It was customary for the Romans to offer criminals drugged wine with the intention of dulling the pain of the crucifixion. But Jesus refused it so he could experience the full effect of his sacrifice for the salvation of all the world. The second time he was offered wine was when he was at the point of death and said, "I thirst." To say that Jesus was dehydrated at this point would be a colossal understatement. In all probability, his tongue was sticking to the roof of his mouth. The Bible says the soldiers offered him vinegar wine on a sponge. It's believed this is partially to fulfill a prophecy in Psalm 69, which states, "They gave me vinegar for my thirst," but also that Jesus knew he was at the point of death and wanted to say his last words. But first he needed some moisture on his parched lips and throat to get the words out. "It is finished. Father, into your hands I commend my spirit." It is the opinion of medical experts that the final cause of death was hypervolemic shock, traumatic shock, and cardiogenic shock, but you can call it asphyxiation if you like. In attempt to appease the Jews, crucified victims weren't kept on their crosses on the Sabbath, so near sunset the Roman soldiers would break their legs, making it so they couldn't breathe. But when they come to Jesus, they see that he's already dead, but they pierce his side with a lance to be sure. When it exits, it brings out a flow of blood and water. This is not surprising, since Jesus was likely suffering from pleural effusion during his ordeal, which is a buildup of liquid around the lungs. And behold, the veil of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom, and the earth shook and the rocks were split. The tombs were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised, and coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they entered the holy city and appeared to many. The veil in this passage referred to the one in the room of the temple where the Ark of the Covenant was kept. Of course, by this point in history, the Ark of the Covenant was lost. This veil symbolized a separation between God and man, but through his sacrifice on the cross, Jesus makes a way. The dead leaving their tombs and entering the holy city refers to the harrowing of hell. Until this point, for the righteous, hell was simply the abode of the dead, but with Christ's death, the gates of heaven were finally opened to them. Now the centurion and those who were with him keeping guard over Jesus, when they saw the earthquake and the things that were happening, became very frightened and said, Truly this was the Son of God.